Here we go. All right, so my talk tonight is about something that it's an experience that most people who don't do martial arts, or something that is very challenging on a physical or a mental level, they don't get to experience this. And this talk is about our limitations. And our logo for our school actually kind of is based upon this idea of limitations. And I stole this idea from Sifu Brown's logo. But come here, ma'am. So let's do this one. I'll give them the one on the back.
Okay.
So this martial artist here, which, can you see this from where you are? Great. So the martial artist is sitting inside this box. The box represents our limitations, and it's like your comfort zone. And you can see how the martial artist's head is sticking out of the box, like breaking through your limitations, and these lines are expanding as the limitations are expanding. Thank you, ma'am. This is something that has really been a part of martial arts forever. And it started with the mental side of it. As you guys know, if you've heard me talk about it in class, all martial arts come from Shaolin Temple, the original dojo. And they were actually meditating and doing the internal part of practice before the external physical part. But it was designed to kind of go hand in hand, where the physical practice aids you in being able to reach your mental limits and push beyond those. Some of you guys are old enough to have had this experience now, where you sit and meditate for long enough and stuff starts to hurt. And it's a matter of being able to stretch more, being physically stronger, and also obviously being able to get to a point with your meditation where you are able to just get beyond the physical sensation. And you also have the flip side of that, where the internal part of our practice, the meditation and mental discipline, aids in us being able to get beyond in our physical limits. Because this is absolutely true. We place our limits on ourselves. And some of them are kind of innate with our evolution, but it still is all about our perception and our mental understanding of where our line is something that is in a large way, in a large part, kind of trained into us by ourselves. We've created this habit we've decided, like, this is how many push-ups I can do. This is it. Or this is how high I can kick. This is how flexible I am. And on some level, these limits are very real and concrete. If you have never done more than 10 push-ups, it's highly unlikely that you're going to be able to do 1,000 push-ups straight without stopping. But it might be possible. If it was do that or die, you could conceivably see a significant portion of the population would maybe be able to do 1,000 push-ups, like without ever having done push-ups before. Because we kind of have our limit that we understand and that we have created in some way, like a habit almost, and then we have what is beyond that. And you've experienced this in our practice, where you thought, this is as high as I will ever be able to kick, and you keep stretching and practicing your kick, and you're eventually you're able to kick higher. And so we've got two speeds that we break through limitations. And you can look at this in the way that it's represented in the logo. The first one that I was talking about is the limits are just broken through, like the martial artist's head breaking through the box, and the other one is more of a slow process of the lines expanding and our limitations kind of slowly and more safely expanding to meet what is necessary in class, or to meet what is expected of us, or what we expect of ourselves. What I want to talk about is more the first idea tonight. So through time and effort, you will get better. You will get stronger. You will get more flexible. You will be able to meditate for longer. You will be able to do lots of things better over time with this sustained effort. But I want to talk more about our immediate ability to break through our limitations, to run up against that wall in class. Like some of you guys were here in class on Monday, where we just did a killer class, and it's really interesting because this is the first time that I've done a type of class like this that I call a massacre or a breakthrough class, where normally what we do is we're doing crazy hard sets of strengthening along with strikes, and I say several times throughout the class, as we kind of restart a set with jumping jacks and there's a little bit of a break in the action, I say, okay, so if you can't continue and you need to go take a break, sit down or get a drink and then come back, okay. And almost every time I do that, a couple of people walk off the mats. But I am positive, because I've seen this before, that if I didn't give that break and I didn't make that suggestion, that a lot of those people would have just kept going. They would have been able to, because their mind didn't start thinking, well, yeah, I guess it's time for me to take a break, or yeah, now that I think about it, this is the most that I can handle right now. In this class on Monday, we had very few people miss counts or drop out at any point, because I just kept doing the class and I never gave you a chance to quit. Now, the quality of technique when we were just doing 40 hard, fast reps over and over again started to lag a little bit at the end. But it was a really interesting thing for me to witness. Like, this was harder than many people have ever worked before. And yet they just kept going because they thought, well, this is just the way that it is. This is what's expected. This is what I'm supposed to do. And if I had said, all right, most people can handle about 20 reps before they give up, then that's where people would have given up. But I just kept counting to 40. And I'm sure most people just lost count or just kind of got into it and said, I'm not paying attention to the count. I'm just going to throw it as hard as I can and just keep up with it. This is one of many opportunities. Some of the tests that we do are absolutely another experience of this. My Black Sash test was harrowing and awful in many ways, but the one that sticks out for me as far as hitting my physical limit in like an immediate sense was my Red Sash test, which was absolutely a ludicrous 7 hours long, and it was crazy. There were people throwing up and fainting, basically. I got snot all over me from somebody I was practicing with. It was disgusting. It was an absolutely nasty test. But everybody made it, amazingly. There were people who went to the bathroom 2 or 3 times to throw up and came back and just kept going. And some of you guys have heard me talk about that, but maybe you know other people who have like run marathons or done really grueling things with their body where they hit their limit. They hit their first limit. The first limit is the one that is set by our mind. The first limit is like, the most that I can do is 50 push-ups, and then I cannot do 51. That's it. And it's pretty amazing how if you have that number 50 in your mind, as soon as you get to 50, your arms just collapse and they somehow cannot do one more. And on some way that limit is placed there kind of like through our evolution, where we get to this point where there are some things subconsciously saying to us, if you keep going, you could seriously injure yourself. If you keep going, you are going to start throwing up, you are going to faint, you are going to not be in a state that is fit enough to continue. And then yet, many people have had this experience where they hit this point and then they just blow past it. And it's not necessarily that smooth. You run up against it and you feel like you're running up against a wall and I can't possibly do one more. And then you hit your second wind or you hit your third wind. And I have recently read this book called Endure. I've talked about it a couple of times in class. I highly recommend it. It's fascinating. And this is one of the basic concepts that the author talks about, where we have all of these ideas, in science where it's like we've decided that this is why we get exhausted. This is why we hit our physical limit. And it's things like dehydration. It's things like buildup of lactic acid in the body. It's things like your respiratory, your heart rate, or how much oxygen you can get in your body. And then this author kind of systematically goes through all of these things and explains, sometimes with anecdotal evidence, sometimes with actual scientific studies that have shown that in actuality those things are not as hard and fast and black and white as we think, where we have these limits that are actually just like the first limit. That's the end of our first wind. And my reasoning behind this, or my kind of understanding of it, as unscientific as this is from my own experience and from thinking about it, is you guys have heard about somebody being able to summon like this ridiculous strength out of nowhere to like lift up a car to save somebody's life. That kind of freakish strength is within all of us, and there's still a varying limit. You're not going to have a 5-year-old be able to lift up a car necessarily, but if you took somebody to the gym and you told them you're going to lift up a ton of weight, they would not be able to do it. But when we're placed in this situation where there's no time to think about it, there is kind of like a life or death scenario, people summon from seemingly nowhere this incredible strength. And it's physical strength, and there's a mental component to it as well. Because if this person who's needing to lift this car off of somebody is sitting there thinking to themselves, I can't do this, there's no way that I can do this, I promise you it would not happen. They're not having those thoughts. Their thoughts are purely on, I got to get this person out or they're going to die. And their body just does it. So my theory is that we've got like this reserve tank of strength, whether it's for endurance or for explosive power, is set aside in reserve in case something seriously dangerous and like a real threat to our lives happens. Like you're running a marathon and I've got nothing left. I'm about to just fall over, and then a bear jumps out of the pack and starts chasing me. I promise you, I've got a little bit left. I will make it as long as I need to before the bear either gives up or gets somebody else, and the bear gives up. But and you can all sense that would be possible, that you would be at that limit. And then something would happen that would cause you to actually be able to explode beyond that. And so my point is not that we are going to regularly train with bears in the dojo and that we are going to regularly be able to access this, or go deep into this reserve tank of energy and power. But the point is more to recognize that it's there, and to recognize that these limitations that we place on ourselves are on some level arbitrary and false. They do not exist in the real sense that we believe them to exist. And part of our job as martial artists is to recognize these limits are not real, that we can, when we summon the right kind of attitude, we can go beyond. And it does not have to be something that is only, I'm working in slow progress and eventually I'm going to be able to get there. It can be something that we do today, now. It could be something that you do in this meditation, where I've never been able to sit for 15, 20 minutes perfectly still without my mind wandering the whole time. Yet you could do that right now. And this paradigm shift, or this attitude adjustment, or this intention or resolve, can't come from my fancy words or any other outside influence. It's kind of like what I was talking about, being able to just get rid of motivation and just do. Because if we're up in our heads needing motivation or needing some kind of external validation or reason to do something, that's not always going to be there, and it is usually not going to be the thing that actually pushes you over the edge. What will push you over the edge is just completely freeing your mind from these shackles, these limitations that we have placed on them, and just doing it. There's a great quote. I'd be remiss without giving you a Bruce Lee quote at this point in this talk. So Bruce Lee says, if you always put limits on everything you do, physical or anything else, it will spread into your work and into your life. And this is something that you've experienced. It usually goes, our experience in the dojo is flipped, where you're taking your limits that you've placed on you somewhere else and bringing them into the dojo. But certainly it could happen the other way around as well. You're placing your limitations on yourself, and you're recognizing, this is as far as I can go, this is all that I can do. And as soon as you run into that first level of resistance, you give up, you give in, and that's it. And you're training yourself that this is as far as I can go. That's it. He goes on to say, there are no limits. There are only plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond them. So this can work in both senses of, I hit a plateau in my practice or in my life, and it's kind of like this rut, this long-term thing. But it can also work in the immediacy of any moment. You hit that limit like it's a plateau, and you feel like this is absolutely all that I'm going to get to. But you can keep going, and you can find another peak to climb. And this is necessary. It is absolutely necessary in our practice and in our life that we refuse to run up against our limit and stop. It is absolutely necessary that we find a way to get that second wind, whether it's from summoning some insane strength or power, or from just doing whatever it is to get done without getting in your mind about it and without letting your mind stop you. So you can do experiments to play with this. Like you can count to how many push-ups you think you can do. You guys can tell I'm obsessed with push-ups. And you can next time not count how many you do. Maybe you videotape yourself, or you have somebody else count for you, and you just do as many push-ups as you can do. And I promise you that unless somewhere in your head you are actually counting, you will be able to do more than you thought. I know this because I've done this countless times myself. I had a bet with Sifu Donahue and Mr. Savage, the two of the Sifu Brown's Black Sashes in Michigan. We had a bet about how much flexibility progress we could make in a year. And I won the bet, but they accused me of sandbagging my initial measurement. So I just did I took part in the repercussions of the bet along with them, which was we did 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups, and 1,000 squats in one day. That was a logistical feat, but it took things that I did not previously think that I could do. I mean, there's a reason why I stretched so hard and won that bet in reality. And if you guys are watching, you know that I did. But yet I thought, just in a fit of I guess interest or effort, or just this could be fun, I just thought, I'm going to do it anyways. And I did it. And this is not all that impressive. There are things that we will do in class that are probably more difficult than 1,000 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats in one day. And there are things that happen out there in the world that are far more impressive. But what's important is to recognize what we think our limits are, and then go beyond, and refuse to let it become a habit that you run up against the wall and then you give in. This can happen in our meditation as well. We certainly can experience this. I've done it countless times earlier on in my practice, especially, where I thought to myself, 20 minutes is it. That's as long as I can sit. If I sit longer than 20 minutes, my body's going to give up, my mind's going to give up, I can't do it. And lo and behold, I would get it 20 minutes on the dot, and then my legs would just start to kill. And my mind would just say, oh, this is it. It's been 20 minutes. I know that we can't do any more. And I'd open my eyes, and it was 20 minutes exactly. I did this for like a year. I never set a timer. It was just it. That was it. And I thought on some level, well, this is kind of cool because my mind knows when it's been 20 minutes, and that means that I'm really doing something cool with my meditation. But really what was happening was I was placing this limitation on myself, and I was ingraining it, and it took something for me to go beyond 20 minutes. What it took was I set the timer for 25 minutes, and I just sat there, and I got to 20 minutes, and I knew it was 20 minutes because I was really starting to lose it, and I said, too bad, we're sitting until the timer goes off. And that last 5 minutes felt worse than the first 20, but I got through it. And if you do this on a regular basis with your meditation, you're going to start to recognize that this can happen in so many ways, in so many places in life. There was, in this book, a lot of great stories. This one instance, he talks about a woman who had epileptic seizures, and she had a portion of her brain removed, and the seizures stopped. And that part of her brain was also kind of related to or impacting the way that she recognized the passage of time. And this woman went from never having trained, not being a runner by any means. She had this surgery, and she became instantly a championship marathon runner. Like, she just went out and ran a marathon and won. And it's because she actually could not tell how long she had been running. And most of us, what we do is we go out and run. In my case, it's about 5 minutes or like 2 blocks. And I think, that's as far as I can go. My knees and my back are screaming, and that's the end of it. And she just didn't have that part of her. It was like every step was just a step. This could be the first step. It could have been the 1,000th step. She had no idea. And so she just kept going. And people would ask her, it's incredible, like, do you not feel any pain at all? She says, no, it's so painful. It hurts like I'm running a marathon and I haven't trained for it. But she just keeps going because all she's experiencing is that step, that pain right there, and then it's gone, and then it's just on to the next one. And this is like what we can do in our practice, is to live completely in the moment. If we get out of this mindset of how much time has passed, or how much have we done, or what are our limits, what do we think we've got left in us, and we are just doing this punch, or this kick, or this push-up, or we're just sitting here for this breath, we can essentially do the same thing, where we can get out of our minds and just be out here in the world. There are limits in the physical world. I mean, we live in a universe that has rules, but they are not what we think that they are. And they're probably not even, science would admit that they don't even know what the real limits are. So try to go beyond that. Don't try, just do it. It's like I was telling somebody who was in the lobby in the last class, thinking about starting class, thinking about signing up. I said, there's no thinking about it. There's no trying. He said, it was a kid. I'm trying to get my dad to sign up. I said, do or do not. There is no try. And I stole it from Yoda. And that is all that there is to do. If you're thinking about, I'm going to try to take the next step, or I'm going to try to stay for the next class, or I'm going to try to meditate for 5 minutes longer, that word try gives you the easiest, most instant out. You will hit that wall and be done. But if you just do it, and don't think about trying, because trying is wrapped up in what we think our limitations are. Get rid of that. Just do the thing. You will transcend your limits, and you will find yourself in a completely new place, in a place that you, with your understanding of who you are and what it is to be human, could not comprehend. So we're going to do that now with our meditation. Sit comfortably.